200,000 people. That is how many souls were pressed together inside Amsterdam by the end of the 17th century. A city resting on thousands of wooden poles, driven down into wet, yielding swamp soil. A place where the ground itself did not quite trust the buildings above it, and yet held them anyway. Here, 20 different languages drifted along the same narrow streets. Here, a kitchen maid could own shares in a trading company, and a single flower bulb might sell for more than a tall house along the canal. Here, 1 out of every 5 sailors who slipped their mooring lines and sailed out of the harbour would never return. And still, they came. They kept coming. Hundreds of thousands of them. Refugees, wanderers, the hopeful and the desperate, drawn from every corner of Europe. All of them staking their lives on this strange, foul-smelling, dazzling city rising slowly out of the water. This was life in Golden Age Amsterdam, as it really was. Before we drift any further, let's slow ourselves down for a moment. If you've been listening to these stories often, subscribing helps keep them coming. And if you feel like it, leave a comment with the city and time you'd like to visit next. It's the end of December now, the quiet stretch between holidays. A curious time when the nights feel longer than usual and you start to wonder who else might still be awake. But for now, let's turn our attention back. Tonight, we're going to Amsterdam in the 1650s. So get yourself comfortable, shift those pillows, pull the blanket a little higher, settle in properly. Where we're going, you'll want to be still. Now picture yourself clearly. You're 19 years old. Your name is Willem Vanderberg. You've been walking for 3 straight days from your family's small farm in Gelderland. Your feet ache with every step, raw and bleeding inside your only pair of shoes. Your stomach is hollow, having not tasted a real meal since yesterday morning. And now, at last, you're standing at the edge of the most astonishing city you have ever seen. The smell reaches you first. It is nothing like home, not like hay drying in the sun or cow manure or the warm, comforting scent of bread baking in your mother's oven. This is something entirely different. Fish sits at the center of it. Fresh fish, rotting fish, smoked fish, salted fish. It hangs in the air and clings to your clothes. And then there are the canals. You need to understand the canals. They are not the clean, reflective waterways shown in paintings. These canals are sewers, open, slow-moving channels of green-tinged water where everything ends up. Human waste, horse dung, butcher scraps, dead cats drifting near the edges. People wash their clothes in this same water, and somehow, mixed into all of that, there are other smells too. Cinnamon, pepper, nutmeg, spices carried from islands so far away they might as well be part of another world. Your eyes sting, your stomach turns, and somewhere in your exhausted mind a single thought forms. This place is either going to kill you or make you rich. You decide, quietly, to believe the second option. Amsterdam in the 1650s isn't really a city in the way you might imagine one. It's more like a living machine, a vast human hive, humming day and night. Picture Manhattan, Tokyo and Dubai pressed together, scaled down to fit along a handful of canals, and then placed in a world where people still suspect tomatoes of being poisonous and treat illness with leeches. In just 50 years, this city has grown from 60,000 people to more than 200,000. Let that settle in your mind. Entire neighborhoods that didn't exist when your father was born are now filled with tall, narrow buildings, 5 stories high, leaning against one another like drunk friends stumbling home from a tavern late at night. And then there is the harbour. You see it before you truly enter the city. 5,000 ships, pause on that number, 5,000. Merchant vessels. Nearly half of all the ships in Europe gathered here, rocking gently in the grey water of the IJ. From a distance it looks like a forest stripped of its leaves, masts rising everywhere, ropes crossing and tangling, canvas folded and flapping softly in the wind, so dense you almost believe you could walk across the ships to the far side without touching the water. These ships carry everything. Pepper from Malabar, cinnamon from Ceylon, nutmeg from tiny eastern islands most Europeans couldn't point to on a map, Chinese porcelain wrapped carefully in straw, timber from the Baltic, sugar from Brazil, furs from Russia, ivory from Africa. and African people too, though you don't yet understand that part of the trade. You are 19. You've come to make your fortune. The darker truths of this golden age haven't reached you yet. For now, your problem is simple. Don't die before nightfall. You have 3 copper coins in your pocket. Your mother pressed them into your hand when you left, crying as if she already knew she would never see you again. The coins aren't enough to rent a room, but they might buy a little bread and maybe a spot on a floor somewhere. First, though, you need work, and everyone knows the docks are always hiring. You push through the Haarlemmerpoort, the Western Gate, and immediately you're caught in the current of humanity. Workers pass with barrels balanced on their shoulders. Women move carefully with baskets of fish resting on their heads. Merchants in dark coats hurry by, papers tucked under their arms. Children dart between legs, quick and slippery as eels. Soldiers march past in matching uniforms, likely headed for one of the great VOC ships waiting in the harbour. And the languages, they roll over you in waves. Dutch, of course, but also Portuguese, French, German dialects you don't recognize, Yiddish, something that might be Spanish, and something else entirely unfamiliar, from somewhere far beyond Europe. 20 languages, on a single street. The pamphlets weren't exaggerating. You let the crowd carry you toward the water, trusting that work will be found where the ships are. The streets narrow as you walk. The buildings lean closer overhead, their stepped gables rising into a sky the color of pewter. Rain threatens but never quite arrives. From the upper floors, wooden pulleys jut outward. Ropes hang down, swaying slightly. Later you'll learn these are used to haul furniture through windows because the staircases inside are too narrow for anything larger than a person. The houses are tall and thin to avoid higher taxes on wide frontages. Even here, in the richest city in the world, people find ways to cheat the tax collector. Eventually the buildings open up, the space widens, and there it is, the docks. A place of pure chaos, beautiful, overwhelming, and faintly terrifying. Cranes swing slowly overhead, lifting netted bundles from ship holds. Ropes creak, wood knocks against wood, water slaps gently against hulls. This is where your life in Amsterdam will begin. Barrels roll endlessly across the cobblestones, thudding and rattling as they go. Men shout over one another in every language you can imagine, and several you can't. Horses lean forward into their harnesses, muscles trembling as they drag carts piled high with goods hauled from the far edges of the world. And the noise. There is no pause in it, no moment of quiet. Hammers ring from the shipyards. Wooden hulls creak and groan as they shift against the water. Oars dip and splash. Gulls cry overhead, circling patiently, waiting for something edible to fall. You stand still for just a second, stunned by it all, and that's when someone slams into you hard enough to spin you around. The man snarls something in Dutch you don't understand, and then he's gone, swallowed back into the moving mass of bodies. The dock doesn't wait for anyone. You realize quickly that standing still here is dangerous. So you move. Finding work on the docks has its own quiet cruelty. Everyone else has come with the same idea. You're not the first farm boy to arrive with blistered feet, empty pockets, and dreams of easy fortune. The Dutch East India Company. The VOC. Employs more than 1 million people across the world. 1 million. Most of them begin their journey right here, lifting crates, hauling ropes, scrubbing decks. But 1 million workers doesn't mean 1 million chances. It means competition. Harsh, desperate, and sometimes violent. The first hour passes in a blur of shaking heads. No, we don't need loaders. No, we're full. No deck scrubbers today. Go away. Each rejection lands heavier than the last. Your stomach tightens and growls. Your feet throb with every step. The early autumn wind comes off the harbour sharp and damp, slicing straight through your thin wool coat as if it were nothing at all. For the first time since you left home, doubt creeps in. Maybe your father was right. Maybe this city isn't meant for people like you. Maybe you should have stayed on the farm, married the neighbour's daughter, and lived a quiet life like every Vanderberg before you. And then, finally, you meet Hendrik. He's an older man, maybe 40, which in this world makes him nearly ancient. His face is deeply lined, like a walnut left too long in the sun. 3 fingers are missing from his left hand. You don't ask about that. You learn quickly that the docks are full of missing pieces, and questions are rarely welcome. Hendrik oversees a warehouse owned by the Van Leeuwenhoek family. Not the famous one with microscopes, just another branch. Amsterdam is full of names like that. He looks you over slowly, your broad farm shoulders, your calloused hands, the tired desperation in your eyes. 5 stuvers, he says. Not a question. You hesitate for only a heartbeat. Yes, sir, he grunts. It could be approval, it could be indigestion. With Hendrik, it's hard to tell. 6 days a week, 5 stuvers a day, enough maybe for a shared room. In the Jordan, and 1 solid meal if you're careful. If you don't get sick. If nothing goes wrong. Nothing ever goes wrong, right? He gives you directions to a boarding house he claims won't kill you in your sleep, and sends you on your way. By the time you leave the docks, evening is settling in. Shadows stretch longer along the streets. Lamplighters make their slow rounds carrying long poles tipped with small flames, touching fire to oil lamps hanging from iron brackets above the canals. The water catches the light and breaks it into 1,000 trembling orange ripples. For just a moment, despite the smell and the noise and the exhaustion, the city looks beautiful. Then someone empties a chamber pot from a 2nd-story window, missing your head by only a few feet, and the moment passes. The boarding house sits in the Jordan, just past the Prinsengracht, in a building that leans at an angle suggesting it might give up entirely if disturbed. The landlady, Greet, might be 50, she might be 100. Her face suggests she stopped caring about the difference long ago. She leads you up narrow stairs to a 3rd-floor room already thick with stale air. There's no furniture, just a pile of straw in one corner and a bucket in the other. Straws for sleeping, she says flatly, buckets for everything else. You don't ask questions, rent is due weekly. Miss a payment and you're out. No excuses, no stories. You hand over your last copper coins, plus 1 Hendrik advanced you against tomorrow's work. You are officially in debt before your first full day begins. Welcome to Amsterdam. As night deepens, your roommates arrive one by one. Jan, a sailor whose ship went down off the coast of Africa, leaving him stranded here. Peter and his brother Klaas, carpenters from Leiden still waiting for steady work. An old man named Friedrich, who speaks little Dutch and mutters mostly in German to himself, and a boy no older than 15, who avoids eye contact and never offers his name. 6 men. 1 pile of straw, 1 bucket. You find a place near the wall and curl up, using your coat as a pillow. Through the thin walls the city seeps in, shouts from a nearby tavern, hooves striking cobblestones, singing, badly off-key, in a language you don't recognize, a baby crying, a dog barking, the constant restless breathing of 200,000 people living pressed together. It's nothing like home, nothing like the quiet farm nights, where the loudest sound was wind moving through wheat and your father steady snoring through thin walls. But this is your life now. Tomorrow, you start work. Tomorrow, the real routine begins. As sleep finally pulls you under, the smell of the city still heavy in your nose, you make yourself a promise. You will survive this place. You will endure it. Someday, somehow, you'll be one of those men in black coats walking quickly with papers under their arms. Someday you'll have a house with a stepped gable, a pulley for your furniture, and servants to empty the chamber pots for you. But for now, you sleep. The straw scratches softly against your cheek. It's dry and sharp and refuses to soften no matter how still you try to lie. Somewhere nearby, one of the men is snoring, a slow, rattling sound that rises and falls without concern for anyone else in the room. The bucket smells exactly the way you knew it would. A heavy, sour presence that hangs in the air no matter how you turn your head. And outside, beyond these thin, tired walls, Amsterdam keeps moving. It keeps breathing. It keeps rolling forward into a future you can't even begin to imagine. This is where your story begins. Not with wealth, not with glory, not with any of the shining promises printed in cheap pamphlets. It begins with a pile of straw, a bucket, and a job that starts before sunrise. And when you think about it, that isn't so different from how most great stories begin. At the very bottom, looking up, with nothing to lose and everything to fight. For, unlike you, lying comfortably wherever you are right now, Willem has no idea what tomorrow will bring. No idea how this city will shape him, harden him, and quietly change him in ways he can't yet predict. He doesn't know about the people he'll meet, or the things he'll see, or the moments of wonder and horror waiting just beyond the next canal. But that's the thing about Amsterdam in the 1650s. Nobody knows what's coming next. That uncertainty is exactly what makes it feel like the center of the world. As you lie there in the dark, curled around yourself on that straw, you have no way of knowing that in this very city, at this very moment, a painter named Rembrandt is working by candlelight in his studio, that merchants are leaning over tables, finalizing deals that will send ships halfway around the globe, that somewhere in a quiet garden beyond the city walls, a tulip bulb is pushing slowly upward through the soil, destined one day to sell for more money than you'll earn in 20 years of labor. You don't know that the plague will return to these crowded streets, that the canals you walked beside today will freeze solid in winter, turning into skating paths lined with cheering crowds, that empires will rise and fall while you're hauling crates on the docks. All you know is that you're exhausted, your feet ache. Tomorrow will be the hardest day of your life, and the day after that will probably be harder still. But you're here, in Amsterdam, the center of the world, and that has to count for something. The last sound you hear before sleep finally takes you is a church bell ringing somewhere in the distance. It marks the hour, it counts the time, it reminds everyone within earshot that in this city, every moment matters. Every second is an opportunity. Every heartbeat might be the one that changes everything. Your breathing slows, your muscles finally loosen their grip, and the city holds you. Just one more dreamer among 200,000. The night deepens over Amsterdam. And then someone kicks your foot, hard. You jerk awake into darkness, complete darkness. For a moment you don't know where you are. Then the smell hits you, and everything comes rushing back. The straw, the bucket, Amsterdam. It's Hendrik. How he got into the boarding house you don't know and you don't ask. He stands there as a rough silhouette against the faint pre-dawn grey, and he's not asking twice. You drag yourself upright, your body screams in protest. 3 days of walking, one night on straw that might as well have been bare floor. Every muscle feels bruised like someone's been working it over with a hammer. Out, Hendrik mutters, already turning toward the stairs. You follow. Outside, the city is a different creature in the dark. The canals are black, smooth mirrors reflecting nothing at all. The only light comes from a few scattered windows where bakers have already begun their fires. The air is cold and damp, carrying the same layered smell from yesterday, but sharper somehow, as if the night has concentrated it. Hendrik walks fast for a man missing 3 fingers. You have to half jog to keep up. He doesn't speak, doesn't explain where you're going or what you'll be doing. He just moves forward. Boots clicking against cobblestones, breath puffing out in small clouds that vanish into the gloom. When you reach the docks, you're surprised to find them already alive. You'd imagined you'd be among the first. You're not. Dozens of men are already swarming the quays, lanterns bobbing like fireflies in the darkness. You hear them before you see them. The grunt of effort, the dull thud of heavy loads being shifted, the creak of ropes and pulleys, and beneath it all, the steady slap of water against wood. Hendrik stops and points toward a ship that's little more than a shadow against the slowly lightening sky. She came in last night from Batavia, 8 months at sea. Everything in her hold needs to be out before noon. 8 months. You try to picture it. 8 months on a wooden ship crossing oceans you've only heard about in stories. 8 months of eating whatever didn't rot first, drinking water that tasted like the barrel it came from, praying that the next storm wouldn't be the one that sent you straight to the bottom. And now here you are about to unload what they brought back. Find Garrett, Hendrik says. He tells you what to do. Don't drop anything. Don't break anything. Don't talk unless someone asks. And stay out of the way of the experienced men. They'll shove you into the harbour just for fun. Then he's gone, swallowed by the darkness, probably off to ruin someone else's morning. You find Garrett easily enough. He's built like one of the barrels stacked around him, wide and solid, with a beard that looks like it hasn't seen a blade in years. He takes one look at you and laughs. Another one, he says. They're sending me babies now. He shakes his head, still smiling. All right, baby, grab that rope. Pull when I say pull. Stop when I say stop. You think you can handle that? You nod. You can handle that. What follows is the longest morning of your life. Cargo rises slowly from the hold in heavy nets, swinging out over the water on ropes thick as your wrist. Burlap sacks of pepper spill their sharp scent into the air. Wooden crates of cinnamon knock together. Bolts of fabric wrapped in oilcloth slide across the planks. Porcelain packed so carefully in straw that you're almost afraid to breathe near it. Your arms burn, your hands blister. Time stretches and thins until it feels like it might snap, and the sun keeps climbing. Every piece of it has travelled halfway around the world to reach this dock. Every crate, every sack, every fragile bundle represents months at sea, storms survived, men lost. Each item is worth more than you'll earn in an entire year. And your job is simple, in theory. Catch it, guide it down, stack it neatly on the quay without breaking it. Or yourself. The first hour feels endless. Your arms burn as if fire has been poured into them. Your back screams in protest every time you lean into the rope. The coarse fibers bite into your palms, tearing skin until your hands are raw and bleeding. Around you, the experienced workers move with an ease that feels almost insulting. They shift loads as if gravity applies differently to them. Most of them have been doing this since they were boys. You notice everything. You notice the pain. You notice the weight. You notice how close you are to collapse. But you don't complain. You don't slow down. You pull when Garrett tells you to pull, and you stop when he tells you to stop. Slowly, so slowly you barely realize it's happening. You begin to feel the rhythm. The rope tightens, the net rises, the load swings, the command comes, and your body responds. Sometime near mid-morning, Garrett glances your way and grunts. Not bad for a baby. It's probably the closest thing to praise you'll hear all day. The sun is up now, such as it is. A weak grey light filters through low clouds and reflects off grey water, washing the world in dull silver. But at least you can see, and what you see is chaos in motion. The Zealandia is only one ship among dozens being unloaded at the same time. The quay stretches in both directions, crowded with barrels, crates, sacks, and coils of rope. Workers weave through it all like ants in a colony, each following some invisible path. Carts creak past, pulled by horses whose ribs show through their hides, their eyes dull with exhaustion. Merchants stand in tight groups, pointing, arguing, scratching figures into ledgers. Money is being made and lost with every breath. And the smell. Now that the sun has warmed things slightly, the full bouquet reveals itself. Fish from the nearby market, spices rising sharp and sweet from the cargo, tar and pitch from the ships, sweat from hundreds of bodies, horse manure from the street behind you, and beneath it all, always, the canals, that unmistakable sweet rot smell of stagnant water and decay. During a brief pause, Garrett speaks casually, as if discussing the weather. "Lost 40 on the way out," he says. You blink. "Out of how many?" you ask. 200, he replies. 40 dead before they even reached port. Then 6 months trading, loading cargo, trying not to die of diseases they'd never heard of. 7 months back across the ocean, and they lost another 30. He shrugs. Came home with barely enough hands to work the sails. You do the math. 70 dead out of 200. More than a third. "Why'd you do it again?" you ask. Garrett laughs, but there's no humour in it. "Because it's the only way," he says, already reaching for another rope. And the work continues. Around noon a man falls. You don't see it happen. You hear the shout first, then the splash, then sudden movement as everyone looks. A worker on a ship 2 berths down slipped on a wet deck and went straight into the harbour. They haul him out quickly enough. He's alive, coughing violently, spitting out canal water that's probably half sewage. But he's finished for the day, maybe longer, if what he swallowed makes him sick. "Lucky," says the worker next to you. He's a young man, only a few years older than you, with a long scar running from his eyebrow to his chin. He grins when you look at it. His name is Joost. He's from Friesland. Came to Amsterdam 2 years ago. Started out hauling ropes just like you. Now he handles cargo. Compared to you, he says, he's practically a veteran. He taps the scar lightly. "Knife fight over a crate," he says, like he's talking about the weather. Then he turns back to work. That's the thing you're starting to understand about this place. Everyone has a story like that. Everyone has lost someone. Everyone has seen something they shouldn't have survived. Death is so common here, it barely earns a pause. The ships in this harbour, the ships that built this city's fortune, run on human bodies as much as they run on wind and wood. 1 in 5 never comes home. That's the real cost of cinnamon in porridge, the true price of pepper on meat, the reason clean sheets and quiet nights exist somewhere else. The afternoon is worse than the morning, if that's possible. Your hands move past pain into numbness. Your shoulders feel like they might tear free from your body. But the cargo keeps coming, net after net, crate after crate, and you keep catching, guiding, stacking. At some point, thinking stops entirely. Your body takes over. Pull, stop, don't drop, don't break, don't fall into the harbour. The light begins to fade. What little sun there was sinks lower. Grey turns to deeper grey, then to blue, then to purple at the edges. Finally, a horn sounds. Garrett shouts that it's enough. Your arms stop moving. You stand there swaying slightly, unsure if you'll ever feel like yourself again. You made it through day 1, Eust says, appearing beside you. Most don't. Some run before lunch, some pass out. Saw one guy cry so hard they had to carry him away. You try to say something tough, something that proves you belong. All that comes out is a grunt. Eust laughs and slaps you on the back, nearly knocking you over. Come on, he says. I'll buy you a beer. You earned it. The tavern is dark and low-ceilinged near the shipyards. It smells of sweat, smoke, and spilled beer. It's packed with men who look exactly as broken as you feel. Eust knows everyone. Names are shouted, mugs are raised, laughter spills over the noise. And for the first time since you arrived in Amsterdam, as you sink onto a bench and wrap your hands around something, warm and bitter, you feel something loosen inside you. You're still here. You survived the day. And for now, that's enough. You exchange nods and quiet greetings as you push your way toward a small table in the corner. The beer that lands in front of you is thin and sour, nothing at all like the dark, rich brew your father used to make back on the farm. But it's cold, it's wet, and after a day like this, it might as well be the finest wine in all of Amsterdam. You take a long swallow and feel it spread through you, washing away just a little of the ache in your bones. So, Eust says at last, leaning back, what's your plan? You going to do this forever? You haven't really thought about it. All you wanted today was to survive. But he's looking at you like he expects an answer. I want to make something of myself, you say slowly. Have my own business. Maybe. A house on the canal. You shrug. You know the dream. Everyone does. Eust nods the way someone nods when they've heard the same words 1,000 times. He probably has. He takes a long drink and wipes his beard with the back of his hand. Dreams are cheap here, he says. Work isn't. He studies you for a moment, his expression hard to read. You seem smart enough, he adds. Don't waste that. Keep your eyes open. Listen. Learn. This city rewards people who pay attention. You file the advice away. It sounds important, sensible. But right now, your world is very small. It's the beer in front of you. It's the weight of knowing you have to do all of this again tomorrow. Outside, the bells of the Ude Kirk begin to ring, counting out the hours as evening settles over this strange, impossible city. You think about your mother, back on the farm, probably praying for you right now. You think about your father, who said you'd be home within a month, tail between your legs. You think about the people you passed today. Merchants, sailors, dock workers, each carrying their own story, their own dream, their own reason for being here. 200,000 people. And now you're one of them. Tomorrow you'll wake before dawn again. You'll haul cargo until your body begs for mercy. You'll watch ships come and go from places you can barely imagine. You'll learn a little more about how this city works, how money flows through it like water, through the canals. But tonight, you drink your beer. You listen to Eust tell stories about storms, distant ports, and strange sights on the far side of the world, and for a moment, just a moment, you let yourself believe that maybe you belong here. The candles on the table flicker. The noise of the tavern wraps around you like a heavy blanket. Somewhere out in the harbour, another ship is slipping its moorings, carrying 200 more souls toward whatever fate waits for them. That's Amsterdam. You fall asleep at the table before your second beer is finished. Eust nudges you awake, helps you stumble back through the streets, and deposits you gently onto your pile of straw. The last thing you hear is his voice somewhere above you in the dark. Tomorrow comes whether you're ready or not. And somehow, despite the pain and the exhaustion, despite the stench of the canals and the memory of 1,000 crates still pressing on your shoulders, you smile. You made it through day one. Only God knows how many more there will be. 3 weeks in, and you've learned a few things. You've learned that your body can take more punishment than you ever imagined. Those first days on the docks, you were certain something inside you would snap, like a rope pulled too tight. But it didn't. Your hands hardened, calluses forming thick as leather. Your shoulders stopped screaming and settled into a low, constant grumble. Your legs learned how to carry you through 14-hour days without giving out. You've also learned that the straw in your boarding house has fleas. This is knowledge you never wanted, but now you have it. Small red bites creep up your arms, across your chest, down your legs. Everyone has them. Friedrich scratches in his sleep so loudly it sounds like someone sawing wood. The boy who never gives his name has it worst. Angry welts he picks until they bleed. When you mention it to Greet, she just shrugs. You want rooms without fleas, she says. Go live on the Herrengracht with the merchants. Then she laughs at her own joke, a sound like a goose being strangled. Fleas are free. Complaining costs extra, so you scratch. Everyone scratches. It becomes part of life. Mornings start before the sun, same as always. You've gotten used to Hendrik's boot against your foot, though lately you've been waking on your own, some inner clock adjusting to the rhythm of this place. You dress in the dark, stumble down the creaking stairs, step out into streets still wrapped in shadow. The Jordan feels different at this hour, quieter but never silent. Babies cry behind closed doors. Someone is already hammering away in a workshop. A drunk sings softly to himself as he wanders home, and always there's the sound of the city waking. Roosters that shouldn't exist here but somehow do, dogs barking at nothing, the first carts of the day rattling over cobblestones. You know the streets now. You had to learn them quickly. The Jordan is a maze, streets twisting at odd angles, dead-ending without warning, built over old drainage ditches, Eust told you once. That's why nothing lines up. The city grew over the old land like a scab over a wound, and the scars still show. Your walk to the docks takes you past the Nordermarkt, just beginning to stir. Farmers set up their stalls in the shadow of the Norderkerk, the church that serves the poor of this district. Cabbages and turnips are stacked high. Eggs rest in woven baskets. Butter sits in neat wooden moulds. The smell of fresh bread drifts from bakeries that have been working since midnight. You breathe it in, and you keep walking. You can't afford any of it. Not yet. Breakfast is a small, unremarkable thing. Just a hunk of yesterday's bread, bought for a single doot from a woman who sells what is too old and too hard for anyone else to want. The crust is stiff, the inside dry, and it scratches slightly at your throat as you chew. You eat it while walking because stopping would only make you think about it more. You wash it down with water drawn from the pump near the Prinsengracht, taking careful, measured swallows and trying not to dwell on what else might be mixed into that water. It tastes of iron and stone and something faintly unpleasant, but it does the job. Your stomach at least has learned to accept it. That wasn't always the case. In those first few days after arriving in Amsterdam, everything seemed determined to make you sick. The water upset you. The air felt damp and heavy in your lungs. The cheap food from street vendors sat poorly, refusing to stay down. You spent long hours crouched over the bucket in your rented room, sweating and miserable, wondering if coming here had been a mistake. Those memories still linger, but they've faded at the edges. Now your gut has mostly made peace with this place. It doesn't complain as much. It no longer rebels at every meal. It has learned, as you have, to endure. The work itself hasn't grown easier. Not really, but it has grown familiar. You know the rhythms of the docks now, the slow build of activity at dawn and the steady grind through the day. You know which foreman will drive a crew until their legs shake and which ones understand the value of pacing. You know how to read the loading manifests even though you're not supposed to, and you do it quietly, without drawing attention. You can tell which cargo needs careful handling and which can survive a few rough knocks. You know which ships have just arrived and which ones are preparing to leave, their decks busy with final preparations. The Zealandia sailed out last week. You watched her from the dock as her sails caught the early morning wind, pale cloth filling and tightening as she turned toward open water. She was heading back across the world with a fresh crew of 200 men. Some of them were first-timers, young men who had arrived in Amsterdam with the same hopes and half-formed dreams you once carried. For a moment you thought about waving. Then you didn't. They wouldn't have seen you anyway. 1 in 5 won't come back. That number stays with you, quiet but persistent. 40 men on that ship will die before they ever see this harbour again. Maybe more. The rest will return changed. Like Garrett, who came back thinner and quieter. Like Eust, carrying scars on his body and stranger, less visible ones on his soul. Somewhere along the way you made a decision without ever saying it out loud. You're never getting on one of those ships. Whatever fortune you manage to scrape together, you'll do it on solid ground. Evenings are when the Jordan truly comes alive. Work usually ends around sunset, depending on the day, and then the streets fill with people who have been labouring since dawn and now have a few short hours before sleep claims them. Taverns overflow, voices blending into a constant low hum. Music spills out through open doors, fiddles and pipes echoing down narrow streets. Couples walk arm in arm along the smaller canals, pretending just for a little while that this is a romantic place and not a sewer dressed up with grand ideas. You've begun eating dinner at a cookshop on the Langesgracht. It's a narrow place run by a woman named Bets, who makes something she calls hutspot. It's really just whatever vegetables she could find that day, boiled until they surrender completely and turn into a soft, shapeless mash. Sometimes there's meat mixed in. You've learned not to ask what kind. For 3 stuvers, she gives you a bowl large enough to fill you up, and that's what matters most. Bets is maybe 40, with arms thick and strong like a dock worker's and a voice sharp enough to cut through a storm. She knows everyone, and everyone knows her. Somehow, in the few weeks you've been coming to her shop, she's decided to take an interest in you. She calls you by the same nickname she uses for everyone, and when she ladles out the hutspot, she always adds a little extra, letting it spill over the edges of the bowl before setting it in front of you. The other regulars at Bets's place have become something like friends. There's old Martin, who used to be a ship's carpenter until his hands began to shake too badly to hold his tools. There's a woman named Libet, who sells fish at the Vismarkt and always smells faintly of herring no matter how often she washes. There's a group of German immigrants who stick together, speak their own language, and drink more than they eat. They're not family. Your family is still back in Gelderland, probably wondering if you're alive. But this is something else, a kind of community, formed by the shared experience of being poor in the richest city in the world. The gap between rich and poor here is still hard to understand. On your way to the docks, you walk along the Prinsengracht past the narrow houses of the Jordan where families of 6 crowd into single rooms. But if you cross the canal, you find yourself on the Keizersgracht, the Emperor's Canal, where merchant houses rise 4 and 5 stories high. Stone facades replace simple brick. Large glass windows show curtains inside. Servants come and go through side entrances. You once saw inside one of those houses, just for a moment, through an open door. There were paintings on the walls, real paintings, tiles on the floor that probably cost more than you earn in a month. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, holding what looked like 100 candles all burning in the middle of the day, as if money meant nothing at all. The people who live in those houses earned their wealth from the same docks where you strain your back, from the same ships and the same cargo. They simply own things instead of carrying them. It isn't fair. Everyone knows it isn't fair. But this is how the world works here and everywhere else. At least in Amsterdam you can see those houses. At least here, there's a chance, however small, that one day you might live in one yourself. Back on the farm, your life was already written before you were born. Here, everything feels possible, even if most of what's possible is simply dying in a different way. Tonight, Eust finds you at Bets's place. He slides onto the bench across from you, his movements easy and familiar. He has news, he says. You look at him, spoon paused halfway to your mouth. He grins. You tell him you can read, that your mother taught you. She had been a servant in a merchant's house before she married your father, learning her letters and figures there. She passed them on to you during winter evenings by candlelight, tracing letters in soot taken from the fireplace. Eustace nods and tells you to see a man named Cornelius at the Van Leyden warehouse tomorrow, after the morning shift. He says Cornelius knows him. As he speaks, he reaches over and steals a piece of bread from your plate, already standing to go, leaving you with the quiet weight of what comes next. If you get the job, he tells you, you owe him a beer. If you don't get it, he says, he still tried, and you still owe him a beer. He grins when he says it, already standing, already moving on, as if the outcome doesn't really matter. Maybe to him it doesn't. That night, sleep refuses to come. The fleas are exactly the same as always, biting and crawling, finding every patch of exposed skin. Friedrich snores in long, uneven bursts. The boy in the corner scratches himself in silence. The bucket smells sour and unmistakable. None of that has changed. None of it is new. But your mind won't slow down. You keep thinking about warehouse work, about inventory and numbers, about being indoors where rain doesn't soak through your clothes and cold doesn't freeze your fingers stiff. Work where cargo doesn't threaten to crush you the moment you look away. It isn't a canal house, it isn't a fortune, but it's something. Something solid, something different. Your thoughts drift, as they often do, back to your mother. You wonder what she would say if she could see you now, lying on a pile of straw in a crowded room in Amsterdam. Probably something about patience, about taking opportunities when they come, about how God helps those who help themselves. That was her answer to almost everything you ever asked. You wonder if she got your letter. You sent it 2 weeks ago, paying a scribe near the Oude Kerk to write it for you, because your own handwriting is barely legible. You told her you were alive. You told her you had work. You told her not to worry. It wasn't entirely true, but it was the kind of lie children have been telling their mothers forever. Outside, the city breathes. Somewhere down the street, 3 houses away, someone is fighting. Voices rise and fall, sharp and angry, in what might be French or might be something else entirely. A bottle breaks. Then there's laughter. Then silence. Just drunks, probably. It happens every night. The canals sit dark and still beneath your window, that one small window that lets in a thin sliver of sky when the clouds part. You can't see the water from here, but you can smell it. You always can. That will never change. The whole city smells like the canals, like life and death and everything in between, mixed together and left to ferment under the sun. And yet, lying there on your straw, scratching at flea bites, thinking about tomorrow and all the tomorrows that might follow, you feel something you haven't felt since you left home. Hope? It feels foolish. Probably this city eats dreamers for breakfast and spits out their bones. Juice told you that once, and he was only half joking. But still, something in your chest refuses to let go, refuses to accept that this is all there is. You think about the lime trees you pass every morning on your way to work. Someone told you the city planted them to cover the smell of the canals, as if a few trees could hide what 200,000 people leave behind every day. But they try. The trees try. And in the spring, when they bloom, people say the whole city smells like flowers for a few short weeks. That's something to look forward to. You think about the women you see washing clothes in the canals, even though everyone knows that water is filthy. They stand on little floating platforms, scrubbing and scrubbing until their hands are raw. Somehow, the clothes come out cleaner than they went in. That feels like a kind of faith, believing that if you work hard enough, something good will come of it, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. You think about the Oude Kerk, the church you've started going to on Sundays, not because you're especially religious, but because it's warm and dry and no one asks questions. The minister talks about grace and redemption and the life to come. Sometimes you believe him. The pews are filled with people who look like you, people who work with their hands, who own only one set of clothes, who smell like whatever they spent the week doing. The grand churches are somewhere else, in the richer parts of the city. This one is for the rest of you. You think again about the letter you sent your mother. and wonder if you should send another. Tell her about the opportunity at the warehouse. Tell her things might be getting better. Tell her you're not coming home, not yet, maybe not ever. You wonder whether that would break her heart or set it free. Probably both. That's how mothers are. The fleas are still biting. Friedrich is still snoring. The boy in the corner is still a mystery, still silent, still watching the world with eyes that have seen too much for someone so young. But eventually you decide to sleep anyway. Tomorrow you're going to speak to Cornelius. Tomorrow you're going to try for that warehouse job. You're going to learn whatever there is to learn. Make yourself useful. Make yourself hard to replace. This city rewards people who pay attention. That's what you believe. And you've been paying attention every single day. Outside, the noise finally begins to fade. The drunks find their beds or their ditches. The fighters make peace or pass out. Even the dogs stop barking, satisfied that whatever danger they sensed has moved on for the night. Somewhere across the city, in one of the grand houses along the Herrengracht, a merchant is probably sitting by candlelight, studying his accounts, counting the money that passed through his hands today. He isn't thinking about the men who hauled his cargo from ship to warehouse. He doesn't need to. That's fine. He doesn't have to think about you. But someday, maybe, he'll have to deal with you as an equal, as a partner, as someone who climbed up from a pile of straw in the Jordan to something better. That's the dream. It's always the dream. Your eyes finally close. The sounds of the Jordan soften into a rhythm, familiar now, almost comforting in their chaos. Tomorrow is coming. And for the first time since you arrived, you're actually looking forward to it. Cornelius van Leyden is not what you expected. You imagine someone like the merchants you see on the streets, tall hat, black coat, a face that suggests the world owes him money and he intends to collect. But Cornelius is small, barely reaching your shoulder. His fingers are stained with ink. Spectacles perch on a nose that looks like it has been broken at least twice. He's talking before you even finish introducing yourself. Words tumble out of him in a quick, efficient stream, as if pausing would waste something valuable. You sent you? Yes, he mentioned. Said you can read. Can you read? He doesn't wait for an answer. Don't just tell me yes, show me. He pushes a piece of paper into your hands, the motion sharp and practiced. Read that out loud. Now. The paper is a cargo manifest. You recognize the format immediately. Lists of goods, neat lines, numbers written carefully beside each item. Pepper, 47 barrels. Nutmeg, 12 crates. Cinnamon, 31 bundles. Your voice sounds strange in your own ears as you read, too loud in the quiet office. You move steadily down the page, stumbling only once over a word you don't recognize. Cornelius makes an impatient sound, but you correct yourself and keep going. Near the bottom, there's a longer entry. That one takes more time. You pause, counting silently in your head, adding and subtracting, feeling every second stretch out as Cornelius watches you. You can feel his judgment in the room, heavy and unmoving. 282, you say finally. Close enough, he replies immediately. It's 282. You're hired. That's it. No discussion of pay, no questions about where you're from, or what work you've done before. You're hired because you can read and count. Apparently that's enough. You start tomorrow. Be here at dawn. You'll shadow old Powers for a week. Learn how we track inventory. After that you're on your own. Cornelius is already turning away, shuffling toward a desk buried so deeply under papers that you can barely see the wood beneath them. He adds a few final rules without looking back. Don't steal. Don't lie about the numbers. Don't get drunk on duty. Those are the only ones that matter. You walk out of the warehouse in a daze. Later you learn the pay is almost double what you earned on the docks. Juice laughs when you tell him. He slaps you on the back, loud enough to draw looks, and demands his beer. You buy him two. You can afford it now. Told you, he says, foam clinging to his upper lip. This city rewards people who pay attention. Then he laughs again and tells you not to forget about them when you're rich and living on the Herrengracht. You tell him you won't, and you mean it. But for the first time, the Herrengracht doesn't feel quite as impossible as it once did. The Van Leyden warehouse sits on Kattenburg, one of the islands built for the VOC. Man-made land dredged up from the harbour floor and held in place by thousands of wooden pilings driven deep into the mud. The whole neighbourhood trembles when heavy carts roll past. You're standing on something that shouldn't exist, inside a building filled with things from the other side of the world. Nothing about this place is natural. Every inch of it is human stubbornness, refusing to accept what should be impossible. Old Powys is thin, with a cough that never fully leaves him, and hands that shake slightly when he writes. He's been with the Van Leydens for 30 years. Worked his way up from dock loader, just like you. He tells you that on the first day, without ceremony, as if it's simply a fact worth noting. You think about it often over the next few weeks. The job itself isn't hard, not physically anyway. You walk through the warehouse with a ledger tucked under your arm, counting crates and barrels, checking that what's actually there matches what's written on the page. Big discrepancies get reported to Cornelius. Big discrepancies mean someone is stealing. Small ones usually mean someone can't count. But the work is different from anything you've done before. It demands concentration, attention to small details. You have to remember which shipment came from where, which merchant ordered what, which goods are leaving tomorrow and which are staying put. It feels like learning a new language. The words are numbers, the grammar is commerce. Slowly you begin to understand how money moves through the city. It isn't just ships and cargo, there's an invisible system underneath it all. Debts and credits, promises and contracts. A merchant in Amsterdam can buy pepper that's still growing on a vine in Java, sell it to a buyer in Hamburg before it ever reaches the harbour, and profit without ever touching a single peppercorn. It feels like magic, but it isn't. It's just paper and trust. When the trust breaks, people lose everything. When it holds, fortunes appear. About a month into your new job, Cornelius takes you to the Beurs, the Amsterdam Exchange. You've heard about it. Everyone has. Still, nothing prepares you for seeing it. A vast courtyard surrounded by covered arcades, packed with hundreds of men, all shouting at once. The noise hits you like a physical thing. You can't hear yourself think. Individual words blur together into a single rising and falling roar, like waves pounding a ship's hull. Cornelius leans close and raises his voice, pointing things out as he speaks. Men in black coats cluster together, gesturing sharply, scribbling notes. Money changes hands faster than you can follow. Paper moves from one person to another, each exchange creating or destroying wealth in the blink of an eye. He points toward a particularly frantic group near the center. That's the company whose ships you used to unload, whose cargo you now count. You knew they were big. You didn't realize they were this big. Garrett once told you they employed 1 million people worldwide, ships on every ocean, trading posts on islands you can't even pronounce. And here, men are buying and selling pieces of it like cheese at the market. You ask what happens if the price goes down. Cornelius shrugs. Some people lose money. Some lose everything. That's the game. He steers you toward another cluster, smaller, rougher looking. That's where it gets interesting, he says. They aren't trading company shares. They're trading flowers, tulips, bulbs that won't bloom until spring, bought and sold for prices that make your head spin. You hear someone mention 1,000 guilders for a single flower that doesn't even exist yet. It's madness, Cornelius says, but he's smiling when he says it. He looks at you then, really looks at you, with something that might be respect. You watch the tulip traders for a while longer. One man clutches a piece of paper like it's a newborn child. Tears run down his face. He has either bought something or sold something. Either way, his life has just changed in the space of 30 seconds. Around him, others celebrate quietly or watch closely, already planning how to do the same thing tomorrow. A man you don't know nudges your elbow gently, leaning in as if to share a secret, and the noise of the exchange continues to rise and fall around you, steady and endless, like the breathing of the city itself. The man answers your question with a flourish, spreading his hands as if he's revealing a miracle. He tells you about a tulip bulb he bought last month, a Semper Augustus, for 2,000 guilders. He sold it this morning for 4,000. He never even saw the flower, never touched it, never smelled it. Just paper changing hands. 4,000 guilders. The number rattles around inside your head like a stone dropped into an empty bucket. You could work in the warehouse for 15 years and never earn that much. You could spend a lifetime on the docks and still fall short. You ask what happens if he can't sell it. For just a moment his smile flickers. It's barely there, gone almost before you notice it. Then it comes back wider than before. He talks about getting in early, about being smart, about seeing opportunities before anyone else does. You listen, but your mind drifts. You think about the scar that runs from Just's eyebrow to his chin, about Garrett's missing fingers, about the Zelandia sailing away with 200 men, 40 of whom will never return. That's real. That's solid. That's something you understand. This tulip trade, with its promises and its paper and its money that seems to appear from nowhere, feels like fog. Beautiful, maybe, but when you reach out to grab it, there's nothing there. You wish the man good luck, and you mean it. He's going to need it. Sometimes later, lying in your boarding house at night, you think about those tulip traders. The straw still has fleas, but you can afford a better blanket now. Greet gives you the spot nearest the window because you always pay on time. 1,000 guilders for a flower bulb. More than you'd earn in 3 years at the warehouse. More than 5 years on the docks. Enough to buy a small house, hire servants, never work again. And people are paying it eagerly, fighting over the chance to pay even more next week. Something about it feels wrong, though you can't quite say why. Maybe it's because you know where real money comes from labor, from ships crossing oceans, from men like Garrett losing fingers and earning scars. Real money costs something. This tulip money feels like it costs nothing at all, like it's multiplying on its own, feeding on hope and greed. But what do you know? You're a farm boy from Gelderland who got lucky with a warehouse job. These men at the exchange have been doing this for years. Surely they know something you don't. The warehouse teaches you other things too. You learn the names of ports you'd never heard before. Batavia, where half the VOC sailors catch fevers they never recover from. Goa, where the Portuguese tried to hold on to their spice monopoly and failed. Ceylon, where cinnamon grows on trees the way apples grow back home. Malacca, a name that sounds like music and, you're told, smells like money. You learn the difference between good pepper and great pepper, how to spot weevils in nutmeg, how to tell when cargo has been watered down to increase its weight. The tricks of the trade, Powers calls them. Every merchant knows them. Every merchant uses them when they think they can get away with it. You also learn where the goods really come from. Not just ports and countries, but people. Hands that picked the pepper, backs that carried the cinnamon, labor that turned raw materials into luxury goods stacked neatly in crates. Some of that labor was paid, much of it wasn't. There's a whole system you never knew existed before coming here. Ships that sail to Africa, then to the Americas, then back to Amsterdam. The first leg carries trade goods, the second carries people, the third carries sugar and tobacco and cotton grown by those same people who will never go home. The Van Leydens aren't directly involved in that trade. They deal mostly in spices, cloth, sometimes porcelain. Still, you see the manifests from other companies. The careful language that turns human beings into cargo. Numbers that don't represent barrels or crates, but lives. Powys was right. Every number stands for something real. Some nights that keeps you awake. Other nights you're too tired to think about it at all. The city keeps moving. Ships come and go. Money changes hands in the exchange. And you keep doing your job, counting crates, recording numbers, learning everything you can about how this vast machine works. Here's what you figure out. After 2 months in Amsterdam. Knowing things is power. The merchants who get rich aren't the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who know the most. The ones who see opportunities early. The ones who understand how all the pieces fit together. You're not there yet, not even close. But every day you learn a little more. Numbers become patterns. Patterns become knowledge. And knowledge in this city can be traded for almost anything. Your mother would be proud. Or horrified. Probably both. Tonight, lying in your bed, you hear the city winding down outside your window. The last drunks stumbling home. A dog barking once, twice, then falling silent. Old buildings creaking as they settle into themselves. If you close your eyes, it's not so different from the farm at night. If you ignore the smell, and the noise, and the awareness that 200,000 people are breathing the same air, dreaming their own dreams, fighting their own quiet battles. You're one of them now. Not a visitor, not a newcomer, one of the 200,000. Tomorrow there will be more cargo to count, more numbers to record, more pieces of the puzzle to fit into place. But tonight, you rest. The blanket is warm. The fleas have quieted down somewhere out in the darkness. Ships are crossing oceans, bringing more goods to the warehouses, more money to the exchange, more stories to this strange, stubborn city. You're part of something now, something larger than yourself. That thought carries you gently into sleep. Somewhere in the city a church bell rings once, then twice, marking the hour. And in the burrs, even now, even in the darkness, men are probably still dreaming. Dreaming about tulips, about fortunes waiting just out of reach, about pieces of paper that might change everything. Let them dream. You have real work waiting in the morning. Sundays feel strange. After weeks of rising before dawn, your body doesn't know what to do with itself when there's nowhere you have to be. You lie on your pile of straw, eyes open in the grey morning light, listening to Friedrich snore and the boy shift restlessly in his corner. For a while you simply stare at the ceiling and think, now what? Then the answer comes easily enough. Church first. The Norderkirk is the same as always. The minister speaks about patience and faith and trusting in God's plan. You listen with half an ear. Your attention drifts instead to the faces around you. Workers like yourself, servants wearing their one good set of clothes. A few families with children who fidget and whisper and swing their legs off the benches. Everyone looks tired. Everyone looks like they could use another day of rest instead of sitting on hard wooden pews, listening to words they've heard many times before. When the service ends, the day stretches out in front of you. No cargo to count, no Cornelius demanding numbers, no Powys coughing his way through explanations of shipping routes and missing crates. You decide to walk, not toward any particular place, just walking, letting your feet choose. You've been in Amsterdam for nearly 3 months, but most of that time you've moved through the same narrow loop. Boarding house to warehouse, warehouse to Betsy's cookshop, cookshop back to the boarding house. The city is far larger than that small circle. Today you let yourself see it. You drift east, toward the older part of town, where the buildings press closer together and the streets twist and turn without any clear logic. This was Amsterdam before the expansion, before the ring of grand canals, before the VOC and the merchants and the wealth that reshaped everything. The Oude Kerk rises above the rooftops, its tower catching the pale morning sun. You've seen it from a distance many times, but never this close. It feels massive, ancient. The stones at its base look as though they've been there longer than memory, and right beside it, almost pressed into its shadow, is something else entirely. Women sit in windows and doorways. Some are dressed in ways that leave little to the imagination. Others simply watch the street with bored, knowing expressions. A few call out to passing men. One of them whistles at you. You keep walking, face warming despite yourself. No one ever told you about this part of the city. Or maybe they did and you weren't listening. Either way, it makes a certain kind of sense. Where there is money, there is everything money can buy. And in Amsterdam, everything has a price. The street opens suddenly into a square, and you smell the sea, not the canals, not that familiar, rotting mix you've grown used to. This is different. Salt and fish and cold water, the Vismarkt, the fish market. You've heard of it, of course, but you've never been here before. It's already busy even this early. Boats cluster along the quay, some still being unloaded, barges that must have left before dawn, heavy with the night's catch. Men in rubber aprons haul baskets filled with silver. Bodies onto the stones. Women with scales and knives wait for them. Herring, mostly, mountains of herring. Someone once told you the Dutch built their empire on it. You hadn't believed them at the time. But standing here, watching the steady flow of fish and money and people, it doesn't seem so unlikely. Before pepper and nutmeg and porcelain from China, there was herring. The salted fish trade paid for the first ships, and the ships paid for everything else. You buy one from a woman near the edge of the market. She guts it in front of you with quick, practiced movements, her knife flashing faster than you can follow. She drops it into a paper cone, adds a handful of chopped onion, and hands it over. 3 stuvers. You eat it standing there in the crowd. Salt and sea and something deeper, something that connects this moment to 1,000 years of fishermen setting out into cold water to feed the people waiting behind them. It's good, really good. You think briefly about soft beds and full cupboards, and having whatever you want whenever you want it. That's something Willem back on the farm could never imagine. But this herring, eaten fresh in a market that has existed longer than anyone remembers, feels real in a way that comforts you. Real in a way that sometimes gets lost the further you move from simple things. The market stretches in every direction, not just fish. Vegetables piled high, cheese wheels so large it takes 2 men to lift them, bread from a dozen different bakers, butter pressed into wooden molds with neat stamped patterns, eggs stacked carefully in baskets, everything the city needs to feed itself, all gathered in one place. You wander slowly, watching, the shouting, the haggling, the quick exchanges of money, goods finding their way to the people who need them. It isn't so different from warehouse work really, just louder, wetter, and with more fish guts underfoot. That's when a woman catches your eye, not like the women near the Uday Kirk. This one is working. She carries a basket of cabbages nearly as large as she is, weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. Dark hair pinned beneath a white cap, strong arms, a face that's pretty in a practical, unremarkable way. She notices you staring and raises an eyebrow. You look away too quickly, embarrassed. She doesn't. She stops beside you, shifts the basket on her hip, and speaks. You blink, surprised. She says something else, teasing, amused. You struggle for a response. She adjusts the basket again and adds another remark, clearly enjoying this. Word travels fast, apparently, even among vegetable sellers. You finally manage to answer, mostly because silence feels worse. She tells you her name is Anna. She doesn't offer her hand, probably because it's full of cabbages. She says she's seen you before wandering the market looking lost. Or is today special? There's something in her voice that makes you want to laugh. She isn't mean, not exactly, just direct, like she's already decided you're worth talking to and is waiting to see if she was right. You tell her it's your first time here. Sundays are the only day you get to explore. 3 months in Amsterdam, and you've never seen the Vismarkt. She shakes her head at that, but she's smiling now. She says something about work swallowing people whole if they let it, about how the city is easy to miss when you're too busy surviving in it. She starts walking again, and without really thinking about it, you fall into step beside her. She talks as she walks, easy and unhurried. She says something about Amsterdam being a place that takes everything you give it and still asks for more. You tell her that sounds like a strange thing to say. She laughs softly and keeps going. My father came here 20 years ago from Antwerp, she says, eyes forward, had nothing, worked himself half to death building the vegetable business. Now he's got a house and a wife, and 3 daughters and more money than he ever dreamed of. She pauses for a moment, adjusting her grip on the basket. And he's miserable, works every day, never sleeps, sees enemies everywhere. The money didn't make him happy, it just gave him more things to worry about. So what's the point, you ask? She answers without hesitation. The point is remembering why you wanted the money in the first place. Not just more and more and more until you forget everything else. She stops at a stall, hands her basket off to someone behind the counter, and finally turns to face you properly. Most people forget, she says. They come here with dreams and end up with nothing but ledgers and heartburn. You think of Cornelius hunched over his desk, ink on his fingers, spectacles slipping down his broken nose, working every hour God sends. Probably rich, probably powerful. And you realize you've never seen him smile. You say something about that. Anna studies you for a moment, really looks at you. Whatever she sees seems to satisfy her. She tells you to remember this conversation. Then she says one more thing, lighter now, almost playful. And then she's gone, lost in the crowd as easily as she appeared. You're left standing there with the taste of herring still on your lips, wondering what just happened. You spend the rest of the day walking. Dam Square draws you in without effort, the heart of everything. The new town hall rises along one side, so grand it looks like it belongs to a king instead of a republic run by merchants. Cornelius once told you they finished it a few years ago. Marble floors, bronze maps of the world set into the stone, every inch of it designed to say that this city matters, that the people who rule it are important, that money is just as good as royal blood, maybe better. This is where it started, the original dam, back when Amsterdam was nothing more than a fishing village where the Amstel met the sea. People built a dam and called the place Amstelradam. From that simple beginning, all of this grew. You stand in the square and watch people flow past. Merchants in black coats, sailors fresh off ships, walking unsteadily after months at sea, women with baskets on their arms, children darting between legs, a dog chasing a cat, chasing a rat, a street performer juggling balls near the weighhouse. A small crowd gathers. Coins land in the hat at his feet now and then. They say you can hear 20 languages in this city. You count at least 6 without moving: Dutch, German, French, something that sounds like Portuguese, Yiddish from a group of men in dark coats and long beards, and something else entirely, maybe from one of the ships. Words you can't begin to place. All of them here, all of them making lives in this unlikely city. You think about the people who came before you. Refugees from Antwerp after the Spanish took control. Anna's father was one of them. Jews fleeing the Inquisition in Portugal. Huguenots escaping persecution in France. All of them washing up here, looking for somewhere they could exist without being hunted for what they believed. Amsterdam took them in. Not out of pure kindness, probably. The merchants understood that refugees brought skills and money and connections. Still, the door was open when others were closed. That counts for something. As the sun begins to sink, you realize you're tired in a way that has nothing to do with work. Your mind is full. Too many sights, too many sounds, too many new thoughts settling into place. You make your way back toward the Jordan as the lamplighters begin their rounds. One by one, the lights come on. The bridges cast long shadows across the canals. You stop on one of the bridges, leaning against the railing, watching the city ease into evening. The bridges here are unlike anything back home. Some of them lift on counterweights, rising smoothly to let boats pass beneath. You've watched the bridge keepers at work, raising and lowering the spans with casual movements that must have taken years to master. They say a good bridge keeper can do it with one finger. You're not sure if that's true, but you've seen them do it without effort. Boats drift below you. Some carry cargo. Others carry families heading home. One moves slowly past, a man rowing at the bow, his wife sitting at the stern with a child in her lap. The boat is small and worn. They don't look rich, but they look peaceful, content in a way that has nothing to do with money. Nearby, a washerwoman is still working on one of those floating platforms. She scrubs cloth in water that shouldn't make anything clean. You've seen them all over the city. Women on their little wooden stages washing clothes in canals filled with things better not thought about. She does it anyway, because it's her work, because someone will pay for clean clothes, because in Amsterdam everyone has a role and she's playing hers. Beyond the rooftops, outside the city walls, the windmills stand against the darkening sky. Their blades never stop turning, pumping water, grinding grain, sawing timber. The whole Dutch way of life depends on them. Without the windmills, the water would take everything back. The sea would reclaim what it's owed. You think about Anna again, about her father who came from Antwerp with nothing and ended up with everything except peace, about the warning hidden in her words. Remember why you wanted the money in the first place. The canal water moves slowly beneath the bridge. The city breathes around you, and for a long moment, you simply stand there, letting it all settle. You left the farm because you wanted more than your father's life, more than the same field stretching out year after year, the same cows, the same narrow rhythm of days that never seemed to change. You wanted to matter, to become someone. That's what you told yourself at least. But now, lying here in a city that never truly rests, you find yourself wondering what that actually means. What does it mean to matter? You don't have an answer, not yet. Maybe you never will. Still, the question is there now, resting quietly in your chest, like a seed buried deep in the soil, waiting to see if it will ever grow into something real. The boarding house is quiet when you return. Friedrich is already asleep, his breathing slow and uneven. The boy sits by the window, staring out into the dark as if he expects something to appear. Peter and Klaas play cards in the corner, barely speaking, the game more habit than entertainment. You lie down on your straw mattress, tired but unable to fully rest. The smell of fish still clings to your clothes. Your legs ache from the walking, a dull, steady reminder of the day, but your mind refuses to slow down. Anna, the market, the grand town hall, the washerwoman on her floating platform, the women watching the street near the Ouderkerk, all of it belongs to the same city, all of it happening at once, every single day, 200,000 people, each one carrying their own story, their own hopes, their own reason for being here. Tomorrow, you'll go back to the warehouse. You'll count cargo, record numbers, learn a little more about how money moves through this place. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, your thoughts are somewhere else. You're thinking about a girl with dark hair and a basket of cabbages, and a warning you didn't know you needed to hear. Church bells ring in the distance, counting the hours, reminding the city that time keeps moving whether anyone is paying attention or not. You close your eyes. Sleep comes more easily than you expected. In your dreams, you're walking through the fish market again. This time, Anna is beside you. She points things out, explains things you never noticed before, laughs softly at something you say. When you wake in the morning, you can't remember the words. Only the feeling remains. And for now, that's enough. You see Anna again on Wednesday, not at the market, but at the warehouse. She's delivering onions, just like she said she would. A cart full of them, pulled by a donkey that looks nearly as stubborn as she does. Cornelius is arguing with her about the price. From the way neither of them seems especially upset, you suspect this happens often. 3 stevers per bushel, Cornelius says. 4, Anna replies, calm and firm. You know she's right. 3.5, 4. These are good onions, she says. The best you'll find this time of year. Cornelius sighs. The sigh of a man who already knows he's lost but feels obligated to resist anyway. As Anna unloads the cart, she catches your eye. Just a small smile, nothing more, but it stays with you long after she's gone, lingering through the rest of the day. She's waiting outside when your shift ends. She falls into step beside you as you head toward the Jordan, talking easily, as if this is already a familiar habit. She pulls her shawl tighter around her shoulders. It's October now, and the air has teeth. She asks if you've ever been inside the church near your boarding house. You've passed it 100 times. Heard its bells marking the hours. Never stepped inside. You tell her you go to the Noorderkerk. That's fine for praying, she says. But the Westerkerk is for seeing. She takes your arm and guides you down a side street. Come on, she says. There's something I want to show you. The Westerkerk is bigger than the Noorderkerk. Newer, too. Its tower rises high into the fading sky, crowned at the top, visible from half the city away. Inside, the space opens up in a way you didn't expect. High ceilings, light filtering in through tall windows set high in the walls. Everything white and clean and simple, just as the Reformed churches always are. She tells you to look up. The ceiling is painted, not like the Catholic churches, crowded with saints and angels and gold. This is different. Geometric patterns, shapes folding into shapes, repeating without telling a story. Designs that guide the eye gently without demanding anything in return. She speaks quietly now. Her voice seems smaller in this wide, echoing space. She tells you her father helped build it. He used to bring her here when she was little. Said it was the most beautiful thing he ever helped make. You stand there together, looking up, and for a moment the city outside disappears. There is only this space, this stillness, and the girl standing beside you, her face softened by the fading light. She tells you why he stopped. Always the money. He could earn more selling vegetables than building churches, so that's what he did. She shrugs, but there's sadness in it. She thinks he regrets it sometimes. You can't hold a vegetable the way you can hold a brick. You can't point to a building and say, I made that. You think of your own father back on the farm, the fields he planted, the animals he raised, work that left something behind even if it was small, even if no one beyond the family ever remembered it. And you wonder what you're leaving behind. Numbers in a ledger, cargo counted and recounted in a warehouse. Outside, the city is settling into evening. The lamplighters are out again. Somewhere nearby, someone plays a violin. The sound drifts through the cold air like a memory you can't quite place. Anna walks you home, or maybe you walk her home. It's hard to say who's leading. Maybe that's the point. She lives near the Bloemgracht, close to the flower canal. The neighborhood is a little nicer than yours, but not by much. Her father rose in the world, she once told you, but he never moved to the Grand Canals. Never saw the point. What would he do with all those rooms? She stops in front of a narrow house with a bell gable and a window box filled with something that might be herbs. "This is me," she says softly. "Thank you for walking with me. Thank you for showing me the church." She smiles. It's different from her market smile. Softer, less guarded. There's more to this city than warehouses and ledgers, Willem. Don't forget that. Then she's gone. The door closes behind her, and you're left standing in the street like an idiot, staring at a piece of wood where she was just a moment ago. The cold finally makes itself known now that she isn't beside you. You pull your coat tighter and start walking. You take the long way home, along the Prinsengracht. The city feels different tonight. Quieter, maybe. Or maybe nothing has changed at all and you're just noticing things you never bothered to notice before. Candlelight flickers behind curtained windows. Water laps softly against the stone edges of the canal. A boat moves past at an unhurried pace, its reflection stretching and breaking across the dark surface. A man walks by in the opposite direction, his breath white in the cold air. You pass a building you've walked past 100 times without ever really seeing it. Tonight, something makes you look up. Symbols carved above the door, Hebrew letters. This is a Jewish neighborhood. One of several in the city, you realize. Back home, Jews weren't allowed. Not at all. Your father used to talk about them like figures from old stories, half myth, half warning. But here, they live next to everyone else. They go to their own churches, synagogues they're called. They run businesses, raise families, walk the same streets you walk. The city doesn't care who you pray to. Someone told you that once. It only cares whether you pay your taxes and keep the peace. Everything else is your own affair. It's strange when you think about it. People killing each other all over Europe over what they believe about God. And here, in this swamp city wrestled from the sea, people live side by side. Portuguese Jews, French Protestants, German Lutherans, Dutch Reformed, even Catholics hiding in attic churches everyone knows about and pretends not to see. Tolerance, that's the word. Not love, not acceptance, just tolerance. An agreement to leave one another alone. Maybe that isn't nothing. Maybe in a world where people burn each other alive. For believing the wrong things, tolerance is actually everything. Old Pau once told you a story at the warehouse about a Catholic family living in an attic near the Amstel. They hold mass up there. A priest comes and goes through the back door. Everyone knows. Nobody says a word. The law says it's illegal. But the law looks the other way, as long as nobody causes trouble. That's Amsterdam. The rules say one thing, the people do another. And somehow it works. The boarding house is warm when you get back. Someone has started a fire in the common room, and a few residents are gathered around it speaking in low voices. You sit with them for a while, listening more than talking. Friedrich, the old German, is telling a story about his hometown in the Palatinate. You don't catch the name, but you catch the meaning. Burned, taken, gone. His family lost. His home erased by wars that seemed to roll endlessly across the German lands. He says there was nothing left, nowhere left to go. So he came here. His Dutch is still rough after all these years, but the meaning is clear enough. He shrugs like it's all long settled. What else can you do? The boy in the corner listens too. You've learned his name by now, Peter, not the carpenter, a different one. He's from somewhere in the south, near the Spanish border. He never talks about why he left. No one presses him. Everyone here is either running from something, or toward something, or both at once. That's what Amsterdam is. A city of people who couldn't stay where they were. A place that takes you in without asking too many questions. You think of Anna's father leaving Antwerp after the Spanish came, of the Jews fleeing Portugal and the Inquisition, of Friedrich and young Peter and all the others washing up on these shores because the doors here were open when every other door was shut. And you, a farm boy from Gelderland, running from a life that felt too small. Are you really so different? The fire crackles. Someone adds another log. Warmth spreads through the room, slow and steady, like something alive. Your thoughts drift to the painter you saw last week near the Ouderkerk. He'd set up his easel right in the street, brushes moving fast and sure, capturing the light on the water. the angles of the buildings, the people passing by without ever noticing they were being made into something lasting. You stood there longer than you meant to, watching the image emerge like magic, color blending into color, shadows finding their place. A whole world pulled out of nothing but paint and cloth. This city is full of painters, you've noticed that. Everywhere you look, someone is trying to capture it. Merchants commissioning portraits for their canal houses, groups of soldiers posing together in stiff formation, still lifes of flowers and fruit and dead game arranged just so. Taverns, kitchens, markets, ordinary moments frozen in oil and canvas. Someone once told you more paintings are made in Amsterdam in a single year than in all of Italy in a decade. You don't know if that's true, but it feels true. Art everywhere, images everywhere. A city that can't stop looking at itself. The painter caught you watching and grinned. Asked if you wanted to buy it when he was done. You laughed, said you couldn't afford it. Nobody can, he replied. That's why I do commissions for the merchants. He never stopped painting while he talked. Never took his eyes off the scene. This one's just for me, he said, for practice, for the joy of it, for the joy of it. You've been thinking about that phrase ever since. When was the last time you did something just for the joy of it? Not for money, not to get ahead, just because it felt good, because it made you happy. On the farm, there were moments like that once. Swimming in the creek on hot summer days, lying in the grass watching clouds drift by, turning into animals and ships and places you'd never been. Helping your mother in the kitchen, not because you were told to, but because you liked standing beside her, listening to her talk while her hands moved from habit and memory. None of it earned money. None of it led anywhere. And yet it mattered. Here, everything is about money, about getting more of it, about climbing rung by rung from dock worker to warehouse clerk to, if you're clever and lucky and ruthless enough, maybe merchant someday. Every hour counted, every effort weighed against what it might return. Even rest feels like an investment in being able to work again tomorrow. Is that what Anna meant, about people forgetting why they came? You climb the stairs to your room, the straw mattress is unchanged, the fleas are unchanged. Friedrich is already snoring, steady and unbothered. Young Peter is curled against the wall, knees drawn up, eyes closed, or maybe not. You can never quite tell. Nothing here is different, and yet something is. Questions move around in your chest, restless like birds trapped indoors. Outside, the Westerkerk bells ring. The same tower you stood beneath with Anna, craning your neck to see the painted ceiling. The bells count the hour. 9, then 10. The sound rolls across rooftops, over canals, into the cold October night. You think about the painter working for the joy of it, about Anna's father shaping bricks into something that would outlast him, about all the people who came here with nothing and built lives out of stubbornness and hope, and whether what they gained was worth what they left behind. Heavy thoughts for a Wednesday night. But once they're there, they don't leave. Your mother used to say God puts questions in your heart when you're ready to hear the answers. You never really believed that. Answers always felt like things other people claimed to have. But lying here in the dark, maybe you're starting to understand. Not answers, not yet. Just questions. Real ones. The kind that don't go away. The fire downstairs crackles its last and fades. The room grows colder, but your blanket is warm. Tomorrow is another day. And the city is still out there. Vast and complicated, full of corners you haven't turned yet. Anna said there's more to show you. Parts of Amsterdam you wouldn't find on your own. You'd like that. You'd like that very much. There's a warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with wool or fire. Something is changing. Or maybe it already has, and you're only now noticing. The city that terrified you when you first arrived, so loud, so crowded, so indifferent, is beginning to feel like a place you might belong. Not because it's kind. It isn't. The work is still hard. The fleas still bite. The canals still smell like rot and life tangled together. But there are people now. Real people. Anna, Betts at the cookshop, old Powys at the warehouse, even Cornelius, in his strange, ink-stained way. They know your name. They notice when you're not there. They matter. Maybe that's what home is. Not fields or fences or even walls. Just the people who would notice if you didn't come back. Your mother would understand that. She always said home was where family was. You thought she meant blood, but maybe she meant something wider. The family you find when you're far from where you started. Your eyes close. The bells fall silent. The city eases into sleep. 200,000 dreams unfolding in the dark. Yours is simple. A painted ceiling. A girl's smile. The feeling of standing somewhere beautiful with someone who sees it too. That's enough for tonight. More than enough. Sleep comes easily when you stop resisting it. November brings the cold. Not the sharp autumn chill you'd grown used to, but something deeper. Something that seeps into bone and refuses to leave. The kind of cold that explains habits. Why the Dutch drink so much Geneva. Why fires burn day and night. Why wool is worn against the skin despite the itching. Survival has its prices. The canals begin to freeze. Slowly at first. A skin of ice along the edges. Thin, fragile, then thicker. One morning you wake and realize the boats haven't moved. They're frozen where they were left, locked in place by pale, solid water. The city shifts. Cargo that once moved by boat now clogs the streets on carts. Wheels grind into frozen ruts. Horses slip on slick cobblestones. Everyone moves slower, bundled heavier, breath hanging in the air like smoke. And then something unexpected happens. People start skating. You've never seen anything like it. Blades strapped to shoes. Men, women, children gliding across the frozen canals as if the ice were meant for them all along. Racing, spinning, laughing. The thing that stopped commerce becomes a playground overnight. Anna takes you to watch one evening after work. You stand on the Prinsengracht bridge, looking down at the frozen canal below. Torches line the edges, their light flickering across the ice. Skaters move through the darkness like spirits, blades cutting clean, singing lines into the surface. Beautiful, isn't it? Anna says. She's wrapped in a thick wool shawl, her breath blooming white. She tells you her father skated like this when he was young, back in Antwerp. Said the canals froze there just the same. Did he teach you? You ask. She shakes her head. No time, always working. There's a pause. Maybe that's why he regrets it. She says quietly. All the things he didn't do because he was too busy doing other things. The skaters laugh below you. Someone stumbles and falls. Others help them up. The ice holds. The city keeps finding ways to live on what should have stopped it. You stand there beside her, watching, and you understand something without quite putting it into words. Work matters. Money matters. But so do moments like this. And maybe, just maybe. You don't have to choose only one. You watch a couple glide past, hand in hand, moving together with an ease that suggests long practice, as if their bodies have learned each other's balance over many winters. The woman laughs at something the man says, and the sound carries across the ice, bright and clear in the cold air, ringing for a moment before fading into the night. You find yourself watching them longer than you mean to. It looks peaceful, you admit quietly. Anna hums in agreement, her eyes following the skaters as they pass beneath the bridge. She says something soft and thoughtful, then realizes she has said a little more than she intended. A faint blush touches her cheeks, just visible in the torchlight. She clears her throat, adds a few words to cover it, but the moment lingers anyway. You smile, not teasing her, just acknowledging it. She smiles back. Below you, a boy falls hard on the ice. The sound echoes sharply, followed by laughter, not cruel, just familiar. His friends reach down and pull him up. He brushes ice from his coat, steadies himself, and tries again, arms stretched wide for balance, wobbling but determined. Everyone falls. You think maybe the ones who matter are the ones who stand up and keep moving. The nights grow longer as winter settles in. Darkness arrives early and leaves late. By the time your work at the warehouse is finished, the sun is already gone, and you walk home through streets lit only by scattered lamps and the warm spill of candlelight from windows. This is when Amsterdam shows its other face. During the day, the city is noise and movement and trade. At night, it becomes something quieter and sharper. Shadows linger in alleys. Voices drift from doorways. Taverns spill drunken men into the streets, not all of them friendly. The night watch makes its rounds. Men with lanterns and clubs, meant to keep order. But the city is too large and the dark too. Patient. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. A merchant beaten near the Wag, unable to work for months. A woman who vanished on her way home, found days later in the harbour. A sailor stabbed over a gambling debt, left bleeding while his killer disappeared into the crowd. The law exists, the courts exist, they hang men in Dam Square when they catch them. But catching them is the problem. In a city this full of strangers, it's easy to vanish. Juice warned you when you first arrived. Stay in groups after dark, keep your money hidden. Don't meet strangers' eyes, don't wander streets you don't know. You followed that advice. Mostly. One night, though, you stay late finishing figures for Cornelius. Numbers blur together. Time slips. When you finally leave, the streets are nearly empty. You hear footsteps behind you. Heavy, fast, too close. Your heart jumps. Every story you've ever heard crowds into your mind at once. You walk faster. The footsteps do too. You turn a corner. They turn with you. You break into a run. The footsteps run. You're almost to your street when you crash into someone coming the other way. You both go down in a mess of limbs and startled curses. "What in God's name?" says a familiar voice. It's Juice, standing over you, rubbing his shoulder, annoyed more than anything. You scramble up and look back. The footsteps have stopped. Whoever was following you has already slipped back into the dark. "You all right?" Juice asks, hauling you fully upright. You nod, still breathing hard. He looks past you into the street, eyes narrowing slightly, then shrugs like he's already filed the danger away. "You shouldn't be out alone this late," he says. "I've told you. I lost track of time, you admit." "Don't," he says simply, and starts walking. You fall in beside him without thinking, grateful for the sound of another person's footsteps. "This city takes care of people who take care of themselves," he mutters. "Everyone else," he trails off. "You don't ask." What comes after that? You don't want to know. The boarding house is warm when you return. Friedrich has the fire going. Someone has made soup. Not good soup, but hot. You eat quietly, the warmth settling into you slowly, your thoughts still stuck on those footsteps in the dark. Later, lying on your straw mattress, sleep won't come. The city that once felt like pure opportunity has edges now. You always knew that in theory. The ships that bring spices also carry other cargo. The money that builds churches and canal houses comes from places far away, places where people aren't free. Old Powers told you once. Late at the warehouse, voice low, eyes fixed on the papers in front of him, documents he'd seen over the years, manifests listing people the same way they list pepper or cloth, numbers without names, lives reduced to ink. "This is how it is," he said. "This is how it's always been." You asked where the money came from anyway. He didn't answer. That's Amsterdam. The tolerance, the refuge, the freedom. It's all real, and it exists beside the other thing. The ships, the ledgers, the quiet violence hidden behind clean columns of numbers. You think about the beauty the city has made, the churches, the town hall, the paintings everywhere, the books being printed, the ideas traded in taverns and coffee houses. A golden age, people call it. And it is. Truly. But gold comes from somewhere. Both truths exist at the same time. Most people learn not to look too closely. They build their lives, raise their children, and let the shadow stay at the edge of their vision. You lie awake, listening to the city breathe, and wonder whether you can do the same. You don't have an answer. Not tonight. Nods and quiet greetings pass between you and the other men as you push your way through the tavern to a small table in the corner. Shoulders brush, mugs clink, and no one lingers long enough to talk. Everyone here is tired in the same way. The beer arrives quickly. It's thin and sour. Nothing at all like what your father brewed back home on the farm. Still, it's cold. It's wet. After a day like today, that's enough. It might as well be the finest wine in Amsterdam. You take a long drink and feel it settle in your stomach, dulling the sharpest edges of the day. "So," you say at last, because silence feels heavier than words. "What's your plan? You going to do this forever?" You hadn't really thought about it. All day long, all you needed was to survive until evening. But he's looking at you now, waiting, like the question matters, like the answer does. You stare into the beer for a moment. "I want to make something of myself," you say finally. "Have my own business. Maybe a house on the canal. You know, the dream." Juice nods slowly, the way a man does when he's heard the same words many times before. He probably has. 1,000 times from 1,000 farm boys just like you. He takes a long drink. wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and lets the silence stretch. He leans back in his chair and studies you with an expression you can't quite read. "You seem smart enough," he says at last. "Don't waste that. Keep your eyes open. Listen. Learn. This city rewards people who pay attention." You file the words away somewhere in your mind. Good advice. Probably. Right now, though, the only thing you can really focus on is the beer in front of you and the knowledge that tomorrow you'll have to do all of this again. Outside, the bells of the Ouderkerk begin to ring, counting the hours as the evening deepens around this strange, impossible city. The sound floats through the streets, steady and patient. You think about your mother back on the farm, probably praying for you at this very moment. You think about your father, who said you'd be home within a month, tail between your legs. You think about all the people you passed today. The merchants, the dock workers, the sailors, each of them carrying their own story, their own dream, their own reason for being here. 200,000 people live in this city, they say. And now you're one of them. Tomorrow you'll wake before dawn again. You'll haul cargo until your body begs for mercy. You'll watch ships come and go from places you can barely imagine. You'll learn a little more about how this city works, how money flows through it like water through the canals. But tonight you drink your beer. You listen to Juice tell stories about storms and distant ports and strange things he saw on the other side of the world. And just for a moment, you let yourself feel like maybe you belong here after all. The candles on the table flicker. The noise of the tavern wraps around you like a heavy blanket. Somewhere out in the harbour, another ship is setting sail, carrying another 200 souls toward whatever fate is waiting for them. That's Amsterdam. You fall asleep at the table before the second beer is empty. Someone wakes you gently, helps you stumble back to the boarding house, and deposits you on your pile of straw. The last thing you hear is his voice drifting down through the darkness. Tomorrow comes whether you're ready or not, and somehow, despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the stench of the canals, the weight of 1,000 crates still pressing down on your shoulders, you smile. You made it through day one. Only God knows how many more there will be. 3 weeks in, and you've learned a few things. You've learned that your body can take more punishment than you ever thought possible. Those first days on the docks, you were sure something inside you would just give out, snap like a rope pulled too tight. But it didn't. Your hands grew calluses thick as shoe leather. Your shoulders stopped screaming and started grumbling instead. Your legs learned how to carry you through 14-hour days without collapsing. You've also learned that the straw in your boarding house has fleas. This is not information you wanted, but now you have it. Little red. Bites run up your arms, across your chest, down your legs. Everyone in the room has them. Friedrich, the old German, scratches in his sleep so loudly it sounds like someone sawing wood. The boy who never gives his name has them worst of all. Angry welts he picks at until they bleed. When you mention it to the landlady, she just shrugs. "You want rooms without fleas?" she says. "Go live on the Herrengracht with the merchants." She laughs at her own joke, a sound like a goose being strangled. Fleas are free. Complaining costs extra. So you scratch. Everyone scratches. It's just part of life now. Mornings start before the sun, same as always. You've gotten used to Hendrik's boot nudging your foot, though lately you've been waking up on your own. Some internal clock adjusting to this new rhythm. You dress, stumble down the creaking stairs, and step out into the dark streets. The Jordan is different at this hour. Quieter, but never silent. Babies cry behind closed doors. Somewhere, someone is already working in a shop. A drunk sings to himself as he weaves home from wherever he spent the night, and always, always, the sound of the city waking up around you. You know the streets now. That was one of the first things you had to learn. The Jordan is a maze, streets running at odd angles, cutting back on themselves, dead-ending without warning. Built on old drainage ditches, Juice told you. That's why nothing makes sense. The city just grew over the old landscape like a scab over a wound, and the scars still show through. Your route takes you past the Noordermarkt, just coming alive in the shadow of the Ouderkerk. Farmers set up their stalls, cabbages and turnips pile high, eggs rest in baskets, butter sits in wooden moulds, the smell of fresh bread drifts from bakeries that have been working since midnight. You can't afford any of it, not yet. Anna comes to the warehouse 2 days later with another delivery. Onions again. This time, you help her unload. Afterward, you walk together along the frozen Kattenberg harbor, your breath making clouds, your hands buried deep in your pockets against the cold. You're quiet today. What are you thinking about? She asks. You don't know how to explain the footsteps in the dark, the numbers on Powie's S manifests, the gap between what the city says it is and what it really is. The cold, you say instead. Just the cold. She doesn't believe you. You can tell. But she doesn't push. My mother makes soup on nights like this, she says. Real soup. Meat and vegetables. Bread to dip in it. You should come for dinner sometime. My father wouldn't mind. He minds everything, but he'll like you. She smiles, small and private. You work hard. He respects that. And my mother's been asking about the young man I keep mentioning. Your heart does something strange in your chest. You say yes, because fear is no reason not to try. She squeezes your arm, quick and light, and then she's gone, her empty cart rattling away toward the Blomgracht. You stand there for a moment watching her go. The city is complicated. Money is complicated. The world is complicated in ways you're only beginning to understand. But some things are simple. A girl's smile, an invitation to dinner, the warmth of knowing someone wants you around. The ice cracks beneath your feet as you walk back. Somewhere in the harbour, a ship stands frozen in place, its mast reaching into the grey sky like fingers pointing at heaven. 5,000 ships, they say, half of Europe's fleet, all of them waiting. Winter slows everything, but life goes on. Fires burn, taverns stay warm, people survive. That's Amsterdam. Survival. Adaptation. By the time you return, the fire is still burning. Friedrich is telling another story, his Dutch slipping into German when he forgets himself. It's about a river, about fishing with his father long ago. It's about loss. You sit and listen. Outside, the city is dark and frozen. Inside, there's warmth. That's enough for tonight. The bells ring somewhere. You don't count them. Time moves differently in winter. Slower, heavier. Your eyes grow heavy. The fire's warmth settles deep in your bones. Finally, Friedrich's story winds down and slips into silence. His voice fades, the way a river disappears into the dark. For a moment, no one speaks. Someone reaches forward and adds another log to the fire. It settles with a quiet crack, and sparks drift upward, slow and lazy, like tiny stars losing their way. The warmth spreads again, seeping into the room, into your bones. Your thoughts drift unhurried. You think about Saturday, about Anna, about soup and her parents, about the strange mixture of hope and terror sitting together in your chest, neither quite winning. You think about the footsteps in the dark, and how they stopped once Juice appeared, about what it means to have people watching out for you, about what it means not to be alone. Sleep pulls at you now gently, not something to resist, not something to fight. The world outside is cold and complicated and full of shadows and questions that don't want answers yet. But in here, in this moment, everything is simple. Warmth, light, the quiet sound of breathing around you. You let it carry you down. You let it carry you home. Saturday comes too fast and too slow at the same time. You borrow a clean shirt, wash your face once, then again, then a third time just to be sure. You try to do something with your hair, though there's only so much you can do with hair like yours. In the small cracked mirror by the boarding house door, you see a young man trying very hard. Too hard, probably. Good enough, you decide. It will have to be. Anna's house on the Blomgracht looks different in the early evening light. Smaller somehow, more real. The window box you noticed before holds herbs. Rosemary and thyme, brown and dormant in the cold, but still there, still alive. You knock before you can talk yourself out of it. The door opens. There's Anna, wearing a dress you've never seen before. Blue, like deep water. Her hair is down. That's new too. She looks like someone you almost recognize, but not quite. Softer, not carrying cabbages, not counting crates. You came, she says. You nod. I thought you might lose your nerve. She's smiling. Inside, the house is warm. A fire burns in the front room. Candles glow on the table. The smell of something cooking fills the air, rich and savory, making your stomach remember how long it's been since you last ate. Anna's mother appears from the back room. She's round, with grey threaded through dark hair, and the same direct gaze as her daughter. She looks you up and down the way someone appraises a delivery. She says your name, not a question, testing it, seeing if it fits. Then she nods. Sit, the soup is almost ready. You sit. The table is set for 5. Anna and her mother, 2 younger girls, her sisters you guess, watching you with barely concealed curiosity, and an empty chair at the head of the table. Father will be down in a moment, Anna says. You nod and try to look calm. You fail completely. The sisters giggle. Anna gives them a look sharp enough to freeze the canals all over again. Footsteps sound on the stairs. Anna's father enters. He's smaller than you expected, wiry, strong hands, a face shaped by weather and work, grey hair cut short, eyes that miss nothing. He takes his seat at the head of the table, studies you for a long moment, then nods. He says your name the same way his wife did, testing it. Another long look. You feel like a manifest being checked for errors. Then he nods again and picks up his spoon. The soup is better than good. It's the best thing you've eaten since you left home. Real meat. Vegetables that taste like someone cared how they grew. Bread soft inside, crusted perfectly for dipping. You eat until you're full. Then you eat a little more because Anna's mother keeps refilling your bowl, and you don't know how to say no. You're too thin, she says. Don't they feed you at that boarding house? Not like this, ma'am. She makes a sound that might be disapproval, or might be satisfaction. Hard to tell with mothers. After the food, the conversation comes easier. Anna's sisters ask about the warehouse, the ships, the docks. The older one, Margarita, wants practical answers. The younger one, Sophie, wants adventure. You tell stories, some of them even true. You talk about the VOC ships, about the names on the manifests. Batavia, Coromandel, Ceylon. Places so far away they sound like dreams. Sophie wants to know if you've ever seen a pirate. You smile and say maybe. Anna's father speaks again, quietly. He knew men who sailed to the Indies. Good men. Most of them didn't come back. He's not really looking at you. He's looking past you, remembering. The table grows still. Then he looks at you directly. He speaks again. A warning, and something else beneath it. Approval, perhaps. Then he goes back to his bread, and the moment passes. But you feel it, the weight of it, the way he included you without saying the words. Anna catches your eye across the table. She smiles in that knowing way, like she understands something you're still figuring out. And for now, that's enough. After dinner, the sisters clear the table, moving quietly now, the excitement of a guest slowly fading into the comfort of routine. Anna's mother ushers everyone out of the kitchen with practiced authority. Cleaning is her domain, and she prefers to do it alone. The old man retreats to his study without ceremony, already disappearing into his books and papers. Anna walks you to the door. The house feels warmer than before, not just from the fire, but from something else you can't quite name. That went well, she says. Did it, you ask? I couldn't tell. Your father barely said anything, she smiles. That's how you know it went well. When he doesn't like someone, he talks the whole time. Questions, more questions. He asked you 5 things, and then let you be. She touches your arm, light and sure. He likes you. How can you tell? The soup, she says simply. Mother only makes the good soup for people father approves of. Everyone else gets the regular soup. You laugh. You can't help it. All that worrying, all that tension, and the answer was in the soup the whole time. She laughs with you, then opens the door, letting in a rush of cold night air. She hesitates for just a moment, like she might say something else, then lets you go. You walk home slowly, taking the long way along the frozen canals. The stars are out tonight, more than you can count, scattered across the sky like spilled salt. The city lies quiet beneath its blanket of ice. Smoke curls from chimneys. Candles flicker behind windows. 200,000 people sleeping, eating, talking, dreaming. All of them living their lives in this impossible place. A cat crosses your path, slipping between shadows. Somewhere, a fiddle plays something slow and sad. A couple walks past, arm in arm, speaking French, not noticing you at all. You've been here almost 5 months now. It feels longer. It feels like you've always been here, like the farm boy who walked through the Harlem gate was someone else entirely, younger, unknowing. You remember that first day, the terror and the wonder tangled together, the smell of the city hitting you like a wall, the crowds, the noise, the certainty that you'd made a terrible mistake. But you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, and choices lead to other choices. And here you are. You know things now, not everything, not even close, but enough to get by, enough to be useful, enough to matter, at least a little, to at least a few people. The frozen canal creaks beneath your feet as you cross a bridge. Somewhere beyond the walls, past the windmills and the fields stretching toward the horizon, spring is waiting. The ice will melt, the ships will sail, the whole machine will start. Again, moving goods and money and people around the world. And you'll be part of it. A small part. Maybe just a single thread in a tapestry too large to see, but a part all the same. What kind of man do you want to be? The question surfaces again, the same one that's been circling for weeks. You still don't have a complete answer. Maybe you never will. Maybe the answer changes as you do. But you know some things. You want to work hard, to deal fairly, to remember where you came from without being trapped by it, to see the shadows in the world without letting them swallow the light. You want to be the kind of man Anna's father would approve of, the kind your own father would be proud of, even if he never says it. You want to build something, not just money, though money matters, something more, a life that means something, a life with people in it who matter. The boarding house is quiet when you return. Friedrich snores softly. Young Peter is curled in his corner. The fire has burned down to embers, but there's still warmth in the room, still light, just barely. You lie down on your straw, tired in a good way, full of good food, good company, something that feels like hope. Tomorrow is Sunday, church in the morning, the rest of the day free. Maybe you'll walk by the Wesermarkt. Maybe you'll stand on a bridge and watch the skaters. Maybe you'll sit by the fire and do nothing at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here, that you made it, that you're still making it one day at a time. The city breathes around you. The ancient rhythm of tides and trade, people coming and going, lives beginning, ending, beginning again. You're part of that rhythm now, one heartbeat among thousands. Outside, the stars still burn. The canals remain frozen. The windmills turn slowly in the dark, pumping water, keeping the sea at bay. This city that shouldn't exist, built on wooden piles driven into a swamp, held together by stubbornness and greed and something harder to name. Hope, maybe. Or simply the refusal to give up. 200,000 people, all fighting the same fight. Against water, against cold, against everything that says this place shouldn't work. But it does. It has lasted. And now so have you. Your eyes grow heavy. The day catches up all at once. The nervousness, the relief, the long walk home under the stars. Sleep pulls at you, gentle and welcoming. You think of Anna in her blue dress, her smile, the way she said, same time next week, like it was the most natural thing in the world. You think of her father and his 5 questions. The good soup, approval given in silence. You think of the year ahead, spring, summer, another autumn, another winter, ships sailing and returning, money changing hands, the endless dance that keeps this city alive. You think of Just, of Betts, of Powys, of Cornelius with his ink-stained fingers, all of them part of your life now, all of them people you'd miss if they were gone. You think of your mother, back on the farm, who taught you to read and told you that God puts questions in your heart when you're ready for the answers. Maybe she was right. Maybe the questions are the point. And somewhere in all of that you're growing, learning, becoming whoever you're going to become. The fire crackles one last time. The room darkens, save for glowing embers. Somewhere outside, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You're warm. You're safe. You're not alone. That's everything. That's enough. Now it's time for you to rest too. Wherever you are, whatever weight you carried today, let it go. You don't need to solve anything tonight. Tomorrow will come whether you worry or not. Just breathe. Just be. The canals are frozen, but spring is coming. The night is dark, but the stars are out. The world is complicated, but simple things still matter. Warmth, food, people who care whether you come home. Willem found his place. you'll find yours too. Or maybe you already have. Close your eyes. Let the story fade. Let sleep take you where it wants to go. Good night.